Hello everybody! My name is Kickerlin and today I am going to be streaming and commentating for you the PC2 race. With me here I have Adam, or Zik. You may know him as a PC1 driver. Say hello, please.
Hi guys! I'm full of cold, so excuse the niffliness which may ensue during this stream. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Ero Pc2 Season 6, Round 4, from Marina Bay in Singapore, as you can see on your screen. After the first 3 rounds on custom-built racetracks, we move to the cauldron, the sauna, and the tight walls of the Singapore streets. Our drivers won't have to deal with the sweltering heat and the stifling humidity like real F1, but they will have to be on their toes, the expected safety cars, rapidly changing conditions of this unpredictable Southeast Asian climate.
That is pretty accurate, and as you've just heard right now, this track is pretty brutal in real life, as it is incredibly hot for every driver, as it's in the south coast, of course, near Australia, racing in the middle of the summer in real life. But of course, every track has its events, special events. In Singapore, we had the 2008 famous Crashgate, which was really controversial, of course, as Alonso won after the safety car period that his teammate caused. So that was pretty interesting. And of course, Felipe Massa's attached fuel hose in the pit lane. That's one event as well. So Singapore is a street circuit, of course. It has a lot of tight and twisty corners, a lot of medium speed corners, a few slow speed corners, which is gonna be really interesting to see. But the track is really tight, so all the drivers have to be really careful to not hit the wall, because if they do, their race is probably gonna be over. Now, what do you think about the strategies today, Adam? What are we expecting to see?
It is possible to do a one-stop if you qualify in the top 10 and start on the softs. It's possible to go on the hards and make them last to the end. But you have to have a very good head for tyre management. It's not an easy thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. If we don't see any safety cars, which is highly unlikely, this is the home of the safety car, it's like Bert Mylander's favourite track, then we might see some people trying one-stops. However, the advantage is then going to be to the guys qualifying outside the top 10, because a medium to hard one-stop is quite easy, and those in the top 10 are going to have to really do a 2-stop with 2 softs and a set of mediums, or 2 mediums and a set of softs if they're really not confident on their tyre management, or if their tyre pressures are too high. So then you can get caught up in traffic, because it is a difficult place to overtake. Even with 3 DRS zones, none of them are particularly long, and they tend to lead into relatively quick corners that don't really have too many lines through them, as we see some cars now coming out for qualifying. So this could be quite interesting to see who's really going to go for it and try and get as high up the grid as possible, sort of gambling on a safety car to fix their strategy for them, and who's just going to sort of chill it a bit and aim for those positions outside the top 10, maybe qualify on mediums and see how high they can get to really sort of push their race strategy and their race pace. Now, we did have 2 races here yesterday in the PlayStation F5 and F4 tiers, and both races saw the maximum 4 safety cars. So do not be surprised if Bert Mylander leads the number of laps led, because it is very, very possible around here. It's very easy to make a mistake. There's 23 corners. A lot of them are twisty and tight and difficult to really get the traction exactly where you want it. And if you lose it, you're probably in a wall, because they're so close to the circuit. And it's quite fast for a street track as well. It's not like Monaco, where you're basically cruising around the whole time at half throttle. You're only at full power for about 40% of the lap here. But where you are, you're fully flooring it, pushing 180, 190 miles an hour in some places. And if you hit a wall at that sort of speed, that's at least 1 wheel off your car. And probably a safety car, because it will bounce you back into the racing line.
And with that being said, we are on board with our first guy out of the pit lane, Jordi. I think he's new in PC2, starting his first lap at the moment on soft tires. There are only two medium runners, Greg and David Hoy, so that's already really interesting.
Yeah, so here we see Jordi coming through this first little tricky section of the lap, the first 3 corners. It's important to carry as much speed as possible through turn 1, and straighten the car up through turn 2 so you can get on the brakes for turn 3. Then turn 4 is a flowing right-handed turn which leads you into the first DRS zone down the Bulls Boulevard. This is one of the prime overtaking opportunities. The track's very wide at the end, although you will break track limits if you dive it too hard, but you can make a place and take that little penalty. The game's unlikely to ping you for that. A couple of twisted little corners. It's important here around 7 to carry as much speed as possible without hitting the outside wall. Gives you the run all the way down into what used to be the Singapore Sling, now a simple left-handed turn, and into the Anderson Bridge.
I mean, it's not that simple. It's still really deadly, as the entry of turn 8 is really difficult, and Jordi actually touches the wall and invalidates his lap.
Carries too much speed through the hairpin, trying to get too much power down for the second DRS zone, and he's probably got front wing damage as well as invalidating his lap, so that will be requiring to pit. The driver behind him on track is one of the Alpines.
It's Michael.
Is Michael.
And Jordi has let him past, so that's really good from Jordi, as the drivers need to be careful to let... Oh!
And David Hoy has binned it on the Anderson Bridge by the looks.
Oh, yes, he has. We were on board with Bolton, and it looks like David got a bit of oversteer at the exit of turn 10, I think that is. And that's really common on that part, because we're gonna be on board with Elliot. If you touch the inside curb too much or with too high speed, the car is gonna be really unsettled and will most likely oversteer into the wall if you don't catch the slide in time. So yeah, that's a really easy place for damage or invalidation, or
the primary sort of way to set your suspension up around here is to be harder on the front than the rears. So if you hit that curb and you don't get the other side of it with your front left, and you basically go over the middle of it, the stiffness on the front of the car, even though you're only running sort of 3 or 4 in your front suspension, the stiffness on the front of the car will lift the whole thing off the floor, so you can't turn, and as soon as you land, if you've got any sort of steering lock, it will spin your back end out. And you kind of need some steering lock, because you also can't really brake with the fronts in the air, and you're heading straight at a wall.
And
it's a difficult track to get the whole thing right. There's so many corners, there's so many tricky braking zones where you don't want to brake too early and lose your minimum speed, but you can't brake too late because there's a wall waiting for you. So it's a difficult lap to hook the whole thing up. If anybody does hook it up, like Nathan's currently 6/10 ahead of the field because he hooked his lap up better than everyone else. So 35.3 is a pretty good time for the start of qualifying when the track isn't rubbered in.
And there is, of course, not a lot of escape room if you do mess up or lock up, so you really need to pay attention to every aspect of the track. If you get understeer, try and slow down a little bit. If you get oversteer, try and catch the slide to not retire. So a lot of aspects the drivers will have to look out for. So I guess we will have a pretty interesting race. But as Adam said, the F5 and F4 race was pretty interesting, a lot of safety cars as well. So there's definitely gonna be a lot of carnage happening, as we do have 15 drivers in today's race.
Elliot was purple through Sector 2, so this could be challenging Nathan at the top of the timesheets.
Let's wait and see.
If he manages to hook up these last 3 chicanes through Sector 3. Good exit out of the last one. And an aggressive line through the final turn. It's a 36.8, which puts him 5th.
He probably lost a lot of time in
the
Sector
qualifying
3.
bug. There is a qualifying bug though, where if you set a green sector, sometimes it'll just go, oh yeah, it's purple, when it isn't.
That's one of a million bugs in this year's game, which I hope the Codemasters can fix. which probably
it's a
won't
minor
happen.
thing, but it's just kind of annoying for commentators.
It is. And
It gives you a false sense of hope as a driver.
yeah.
It's like, ooh, I'm purple! Yeah, you're not. You're on scrub tyres, mate.
We don't have a lot of people doing laps. A lot of people are in the pit lane, as Paulo is coming in right now as well. Jody, I think, is setting another lap, so
Geordie's just starting his, yeah.
let's be on board with him at the moment. He takes the first few corners a bit cautiously, not cutting it too much to gain a lot of time. And as well, turn 4 was also pretty cautious.
I mean, he doesn't have a banker time in yet, so probably he's just making sure he doesn't invalidate his lap. It's easy to carry too much speed into turn 1, even though it's like a 4th or 5th gear corner, and just run that slight bit too wide round the sort of kink of turn 2, and invalidate your lap. And, I mean, you don't want to cut the curb at turn 3, because it just unsettles the car, and you lose time all the way down to turn 5.
Of course. He's now in turn 8, the twisty corners, and he
The
takes
infamous curve of the Anderson Bridge.
And looks like he's
he
alive.
Manages to avoid completely.
He's alive. That's good for him. On the DRS straight, let's see, turn 12 I think that is. He takes it pretty slowly. I think he broke pretty late. And the infamous sector 3, I think that sector 3 is the worst part of the track, as it has a lot of 90 degree turns, which are actually pretty difficult, as there are tons of sausage curbs at the inside line.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the third sector. That's the key to being fast around there, as Johnny does a 38.3 and goes 10th. The key to being fast around the third sector is to hook your inside tyre over the curb, because like you say, they are sausage curbs. They will grip the car and they will basically drag it around the corner for you, provided your differential isn't too high, stopping you turning. I like to run my on-throttle differential somewhere in the 60s, but the third sector is all about throttle management and basically keeping your speed through the corners, but not going too aggressive on the loud pedal, because it will just spit you into a wall. There's an amount of traction that the curbs will give you by hooking your wheel over. If you go too fast, you're just going to lose that traction, and it's just going to dump you out. And like you were saying, when there's not too much in the way of escape roads, there's a fair few. Like, for a street track, it is quite forgiving. But you have to realise you've made a mistake very early to get down those escape roads. They're straight on to the straight approaching the corner. So if you're halfway around the corner and go, I'm not going to make this, well, you kind of can't make the escape road either. You have to know you've braked late, or you've locked up, or something like that, very early in the corner for you to then go, yeah, I can't make this corner, and then you can go straight on, and you've got time to stop and either reverse or as happened at Baku this year with, I believe, Mazepin, may have been Sonoda, to do an Austin Powers, as it was called by one of the engineers, where you attempt to do a 3-point turn in a space far too small for a 3-point turn.
So, we are halfway in the qualifying. What are your expectations for the fastest qualifying lap in today's qualifying session?
I think someone might dip onto the 35s. As the track rubbers in, it becomes significantly faster, because it gives you speed on all of the slow corners, which is most of Sector 3 and large sections of Sector 1 as well.
And
it doesn't really help too much with rubbering it in on like the medium speed corners. Helps a little bit on the fast corners, but there aren't any. But it gives you traction out of all of the slow speed corners, gives you that bit of speed. Nathan's currently on a 35.3, knocking 3/10 off that with a rubbing intro. And Nathan does a 34.9, see?
That's pretty impressive.
Someone
for
breaking 35s. That's a big... He's basically a second ahead of Greg in second there.
And there is still a lot of time for every driver to do another lap if they want to, of course. As Bob Bolton sets a lap time of 1:35.5, still 6/10 slower than Nathan. So Nathan has a pretty big lead, as Adam said previously. So he's gonna be pretty comfortable for the rest of the qualifying session. But he still has time to do another lap if he wants to, of course. So let's see if he wants to do that, and maybe he can get even more practice for the race. But I guess we'll have to see.
If you're confident you can beat your time, you can go all out on your in lap. Sort of kill your tyres a bit, but you're not going to need them. So you can go all out on your in lap. Get in, get your tyres changed, fix the front wing damage you probably got around here, and then you can go out on your sort of final set of softs and push. One good thing, obviously, without rich fuel mix and max fuel mix this year, a lot of tracks, when you put the minimum amount of fuel in, you end up with a massive amount of fuel extra. You don't really end up with that at Singapore because it's such a long lap, and you're always in low gear and things. You are burning fuel quite quickly, so you do burn through the fuel that you put in, the sort of 5 kilograms, the minimum amount. You do burn through it quite quickly, so you don't have to play silly games on your out lap to try and burn that fuel off your final lap. You can just leave it in standard and it'll burn itself. So times might come down, because especially with doing a lap where you complete it after the session is finished, you don't have to save a lap of fuel to get back to the pits without crawling along at 12 miles an hour.
Is it better if all the drivers use every set of softs, or if they leave one soft for the race? In my opinion, I think it's better if they leave at least one set of softs.
Paolo goes 4th in the 36.4, which is a good position. 4th on the grid is good here, because you can have fireworks in turn 1. But he's a 2.5 behind Nathan. Nathan's put in an astonishing lap there. Yeah, like you always want at least one set of fresh tyres, because doing a one-stop here is difficult.
It is.
Whether you want that to be a set of softs or a set of mediums depends on how confident you are with your tyre wear. Softs are faster, but after sort of 7, maybe 8 laps, they're just screaming at you, and you don't get any pace out of them at all, ordinarily. But if you think you can do 15 laps on a set of mediums and keep them alive, you could do double softs. But for a lot of people, I think 15 laps on a set of mediums around here is still pushing it. So you will probably want to go with double mediums, like start on the softs that you qualify on, and then go for 2 sets of mediums. Which I think is why we didn't really see anybody running the mediums at the start of the session, because they want 2 fresh sets for the race.
And that is gonna
Although, of course, with safety cars, fresh softs are better.
Of course.
But you're sort of gambling then a little bit on people making mistakes and causing safety cars.
And that's a good point with the tires, because Singapore has a lot of tight and slow corners. The tire wear is gonna be really bad on this track, especially, way more than any other track. So softs will probably run out like in 4 or 5 laps. Depends on how much you use them in qualifying. If you don't know, if you qualify in the top 10, you have to start on the tires you put the fastest lap on. If you're below the top 10, you can choose whatever tire you want. So that's why qualifying is pretty important, as you can figure out what strategy you want to do in the race. If you want to start on mediums and then go twice on softs, like Adam said, would be a pretty good strategy. If you want to do that, if you want to do something else, if you want to do a 1-stop, if you want to do a 2-stop, or maybe a 3-stop, I don't know. So qualifying is a pretty important aspect to get all the information out of how much the tires wear out, how much they overheat maybe, how fast are the other drivers, where you need to be careful, if you're using too much fuel, too less fuel, if you're using too much ERS, if you're losing way too low ERS, or all of that. So qualifying is really important for everyone. And yeah, so we're gonna have to see what strategies every driver chooses in the race. We are on board with Michael, who is doing his fastest lap at the moment. We have 1 minute remaining in the session. Looks like
so
he is improving.
Georgios is not going to set a lap. Tassos is currently out on track on his out lap, just going into sector 3 now, but Georgios is not going to set a lap. He's clearly decided that having 3 fresh sets of softs for the race is more important than his grid position. He is expecting safety cars plenty.
And that's what we are
it's
expecting
AFK,
as well.
that's also possible.
Or maybe, as well. We
As
are.
Michael goes
expecting-
fourth.
He does with a 136.2. Yellow sector 3. I'm not sure what is happening. Someone probably crashed. It's a McLaren in front
Tassos
spinning.
has spun it out of the last corner, which is gonna absolutely nail his only fastest lap. And he has to kind of hope he doesn't get in the top 10, because those tyres of his are going to be on fire right now.
And really,
He'll do well
worn
to keep it out of a wall without the back end stepping out on him.
Our leader at the moment, Nathan, is on another flying lap, which is really interesting, in my opinion.
He just wants to rub it in, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He wants to do like a sub 34 and just be like, yeah,
He wants
screw
to
you
flex.
losers, I'm in the 33s.
He wants to flex, like, here you go, guys, I'm gonna win today. But still, qualifying is one thing and the race is another. The drivers are gonna have to do 31 laps consistently and cautiously if they don't want to retire or damage their car. So we're gonna have to see how every driver copes in these tight, twisty corners in this street circuit, and if we're gonna see some overtaking opportunities as well. So,
What tends to happen in places like Singapore, where overtaking opportunities are few and far between, and even the ones that you would consider an opportunity is difficult and tight, people tend to get impatient and stick their nose in somewhere that they really shouldn't, and that's when you get pile-ups and chaos.
and
As I've discovered, seems to be my favourite word, carnage. That's where you start getting safety cars. And that's where, perhaps, George with his... Whoa! As Nathan loses it out of the last corner. Well, sort of the last corner. The last chicane.
He was
that's
pushing way
bad.
too much. But he still
See, you
will
could be
start
pole by
leading.
3 seconds, but if you do that on lap 2, you're not going to win the race.
If he pushes too much in the race like that, that's not gonna be good for him, as he will probably spin as the same as he did right now, and he will retire. So, like we said, the sausage curbs are dangerous on this track, especially as there are tons and tons of them around every corner, probably. So that's an example that everyone just needs to be careful and hold it safely.
Absolutely. It's one of those tracks where, like, qualifying is important because it's difficult to overtake. However, staying alive in the race is significantly more important. So you could qualify last and win the race because everybody else bins it. It's entirely plausible.
Of course. We have finished qualifying. We only have one medium runner, which is Greg. Only 1 second off of Nathan. He's starting P3 on mediums. So that's gonna be...
I missed that completely.
Same here. I'm not sure
So,
when that
so we
happened.
have Nathan, and then David, and then Greg at the start of the grid, but Greg is on mediums. That means he can easily do a one-stop from there. And he's starting third. He doesn't have to get aggressive. He can wait for Nathan and David to pit, and then he'll lead the race, and they could get caught in traffic or anything like that. Everybody from Camel backwards, Camel and Jordy and Tassos, etc., they can all start on the medium tyres, and as long as they keep it close in that first stint, which is normally only 5 or 6 laps, as long as they're within the pit window, which at Singapore is quite long because it's a slow pit lane, and it's also quite a long pit lane, they could jump the front runners when they pit and hold them up. This, in my opinion, is Greg's race to lose.
Let's see if he can take this opportunity and maybe do something with it. We are expecting a lot of safety cars, so maybe everyone can do something with those and maybe do a two-stop, which will probably be better for everyone as the tires will wear out really quickly, as we've said before. I'm sorry.
It appears to be dry though, which means it's not going to be quite as chaotic as it could be. Which is unfortunate, but it could rain later in the race, which would be very fortunate.
So,
as we are away for the formation lap.
So
With,
you
yeah,
want
those
rain.
medium tyres of Greg's are really standing out against the nighttime of Singapore, just screaming, I'm going to go long.
So you want rain to happen? Is that what I'm?
Always.
Is that what I'm hearing right now?
always want rain.
I don't think everyone will agree with you, or actually no one will agree with you, probably.
So yeah, the pit stop strategy is softs to mediums, or softs to mediums to hards, but I would, unless you can get to the end on hards and can't on mediums, I would advise against them around Singapore. The number of slow corners means the lack of traction that you get on the hard tyres really hurts you. And nobody's starting on the hards. The guys from 11th backwards, Camille, Jordi, Tassos, George and David, who've been in qualifying, they're all starting on the mediums along with Greg. So their job is to try and jump people like Elliot and Jamie, who are sort of at the back of the soft runners, and hope that they can stay close enough to the front runners that when they pit quite early, sort of lap 5, lap 6, they can jump ahead of them. Because unless they get past on track, that's essentially for net position. Because they're only going to have to make one stop.
I guess we just have to wait a minute to see if everyone will start their race safely, or if we're gonna have a lot of contacts at the beginning, which will probably bring out a VSC or a safety car as well.
Absolutely. Type burnt in chat if you think there's going to be a lap 1 safety car.
Who are you expecting to be in the top 3? The winner is probably gonna be Nathan, of course, as he's 6/10 faster than everyone else.
I don't know, though. I mean, Nathan obviously has the pace, as he demonstrated in qualifying, but Greg has the strategy. Greg's strategy is incredible. Like, with qualifying 3rd on the mediums... Oh, hang on. Boss is DMing me. Give me a sec.
Oh, the boss!
The boss! What do you want, boss?
Is everything okay?
I have no idea. He's asking me a question, that doesn't help.
And you had the predicted strategy tab, so you can see that as well. We are starting,
yes.
We have 5 red lights, and we are still waiting. It's a long hold up.
It's a long hold by Michael Massey.
Finally,
we are underway, and everyone seems to get a pretty decent start. Oh, Greg gets an incredible start on the mediums.
And Nathan is still in front, and Greg goes to P2 from P3. We have a spin at the back. It's already Elliot in the Alpha Tauri. Bolton is really close to Greg and Nathan. He got a pretty bad start at the beginning of the race. Daryl and Rasmussen. I think Rasmussen has overtaken Daryl for P5. And Applinger was on Daryl's inside, but he was way too far behind to try and make a move, as Daryl goes really wide, and they're side by side into turn 7, I think that is, and the Daryl is still in front. So, no carnage just yet, which is really good to see.
And apart from Elliot with his spin, the soft runners are still leading from the guys that qualified P11 backwards. So their strategy isn't being as compromised as it could be, but they need to build that gap. And Camille is only 3/10 behind Robbie, so that's really not happening.
Oh, but he's diving on the
very
inside.
racy on his mediums.
He tried to go around the inside, but he was way too far behind to try and make a move, as Rob went into his apex line. So there was no way for Camille to go for P9, but he still has 30 laps to improve and not to do any mistakes, so we have to see what he will do with those mediums, of course.
The top 2 are starting to get away. There's over a second of a gap already back to 3rd place, which puts them outside the DRS when it opens in a couple of laps. Although it said it's open now, but that's a bug. Ignore it, it's lying to you. the tower's got the Millennium bug.
The game is lying to us. Why are you doing this?
There's no DRS yet, it's still lap 2. Even though the tower's telling us it's lap 3. Nobody laps Singapore that fast.
Greg is gaining a lot of time on Nathan, which is really interesting to see. Nathan is on 2-lap-old softs, which is probably around 30% wear. So he's already gonna have a lot of oversteer. We have a spin. It's a Alpine of Michael. He has lost his front wing.
And he has lost all of his front wing, so he's going to be deathly slow for this lap. There's a VSC out, which is good for Michael, because he needed some kind of safety car, otherwise that would have ruined his race.
And George is not in the lobby, and that's why he probably wasn't setting a lap in qualifying. I wonder what is happening there.
He hasn't messaged me. I'll see if I can invite him. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
If I can find him. Oh, there he is. Oh, I can't invite him because it's for some reason.
Oh, George is lagging a lot. He's losing a lot of time to Nathan. So we have our first virtual safety car for today's race. Not even 2 laps finished and already a safety car. We have a drive-through penalty for Michael, who has front wing damage, so that's really unfortunate for him, as he will have to serve that in 3 laps.
That's really bad for his race, but it's quite impressive that he could speed under VSC with no front wing.
That is really impressive, in my opinion.
Don't make me laugh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, he's going to run wide here, but that technically is a penalty within the arrow, but I think with no front wing and no cars around him, I think we can let him off with that.
Probably, but...
Trying to get into that pit lane is hard enough at the best of times. With no front downforce, it's almost impossible. But he still leads Elliot, so Elliot must have had a problem on the VSC as well.
And Rob...
No, Elliot's already pitted and put mediums on. That explains it. So Elliot must have pitted at the end of lap 1 for medium. Perhaps he had damage from his spin.
Probably. We didn't see his spin, so anything could have happened. We have a pretty big fight from P12 to P8 and P7 actually. All the way to P6 actually. 3 seconds for Camille. So we already have a lot of penalties. We didn't say about penalties. It's a street circuit, so
yeah.
you are in your mind you're thinking that you're not gonna get a lot of penalties, but this track is really unforgiving with track extending and corner cutting. So you have to be careful for not getting damaged, to be consistent, to not get any penalties. So you have a lot of things to be careful of if you want to survive in Singapore.
And Greg sets the fastest lap with a 140.1. He's really flying on those mediums. Nathan's built a bit of a gap on the VSC, but his tyres are going to start dying in the next lap or so.
He probably will.
Greg is really in pole position to win this race. They already have a 3-second gap over David in the Alfa Romeo. He was under pressure from Lassie in the Haas. And Tafel spins it somewhere.
It's turn 3.
Tafel spins it out of turn 3.
He was sideways at the little straight. We have our first safety car.
Full safety car. Expect every single soft runner to pit here.
This is giving them the advantage.
They need to pit at this point. Like at the end of safety car, the whole field will be bunched, and they would have to pit anyway because their soft tires would be dead. So every single soft runner should dive in the pits here. And with it being such a narrow pit lane at Singapore, that can cause its own problems, where you can basically have traffic jams in the pits. If any teams are queuing, then it can just stop other people leaving, essentially. The team, if you're queuing up, the team behind you can't leave because of where it puts your car. The pit lane's just too narrow.
This is actually a big advantage for the soft runners, as they were predicted to go on lap 3 or 4 into the pit lane, maybe 5. So, because it's a safety car, they will have, let's call it a free pit. So they're gonna go on tires and not lose any time, because all the cars are gonna be bunched up again in around 2 laps. But Nathan is still out. He's not going into the pit lane. That's really surprising.
It is a fairly free stop, but the field is still so bunched, it's still going to put you behind everyone.
But
as David, Lassie, Daryl, Jamie, Paolo, Robbie all pit. Camel carries on with his mediums, as does David Hoy.
Every soft runner has pitted.
All the mediums to pit. Yeah, every soft runner except for Nathan has pitted. We'll see if Geordie decides to pit. I find it unlikely though. As Elliot gets a drive-through for speeding on the safety car. So that's 2 drive-throughs we've had now for speeding with the safety car and the VSC.
The thing about the safety car, if you're on worn tires, you should pit, especially during the safety car, as softs in Singapore wear out really quickly. And even if you said that the field is bunched up, if he pits after the safety car, he's gonna be 20 seconds behind everyone, maybe even 30 seconds. So he's gonna have to gain all that time in around 20 laps. So that's gonna be a really bad strategy call, in my opinion. So if he has a free pit stop in the safety car at the moment, he should take it, because he's gonna pit in either lap, in either next lap or maybe on lap next after the next lap.
I mean, it depends how confident of his tyre wear Nathan is. Maybe he's wanting to get to sort of lap 8 or so and then pit for the hards.
Maybe.
But that would be very difficult to do. He would have to be very confident in his ability to keep those tyres alive. It might not have taken too much life out of them in qualifying, but since it wasn't his final set, he did have to do that sort of in-lap on them as well. So they're probably a little bit more worn than those people that set their fastest time after the end of the session.
And in Singapore especially...
At the end of the session.
Yeah, of course. Oh, we have a spin! It's Camille in the Alpine.
Whoa! Behind the safety car?
Behind the safety car. Maybe too much traction on the exit of the corner, which caused him to spin. Or maybe he touched the sausage curb. And Nathan is going into the pit lane, so he will be lost right now.
Pretty much.
If he would have,
he might get out ahead of. Well, he will get out ahead of Elliot. He might get out ahead of Michael. Probably, yeah. No, he won't. Michael's already on the pit straight. He won't. But he will get out ahead of Elliot, so he won't quite be last. Just 13th.
Unlucky
Elliot's
number
pit
13.
again for the hards, by the way.
As well as Rob. So 2 hard runners. They're probably gonna go until the end of the race, but they will have to be careful with conserving the tires. The hards are horrible on this track with
the hards are slow around here, but they do last a while. The thing with Singapore is, because the speeds aren't that high, it's not thermal degradation that's the problem. It's not the heat you're putting through the tires. It's just friction. It's the amount of times you're turning, the amount of times you're braking heavily, the amount of times you're accelerating heavily. It's that wears the tires out. So while the hards are decent and last a decent length of time, they're very slow because obviously you don't have the traction and you just don't have the same sort of grip that you have on the softs on the mediums. But it's not the heat you're putting through them that's the problem. If you look at tracks that are thermal limited, places like Spain, oh, we have contact on the safety car, but I don't think that's a penalty. Yep, it is.
Jordi.
The Jordi gets a penalty for running into Robbie on a safety car.
Does he have damage?
He just came in too hot. He took the end plate off the right-hand side of his front wing.
Oh, that is really unfortunate. In
Which
Singapore
is
especially.
really bad around Singapore.
Because we have a lot of corners.
There's a lot of left-hand turns. It's a left-hand circuit.
So,
and the right end of your end plate is what drags you around.
Oh, that's big contact with Rob again.
And now his whole wing's off. It's another 5-second penalty. Oh, that's the one for Robbie.
Why did
Not sure
he
that was warranted. I don't think he really brake checked him.
Oh, we have safety car in this lap. This is gonna be really unfortunate for Jordi.
Oh dear.
And he almost hit him again.
Jordi's gonna have to. Yeah, Jordi's gonna have to pit for a new front wing, and that's gonna put him 20 seconds behind the field. Elliot's now caught up to the back of the field, despite being like a minute behind before the safety car. So it does show that even if you have problems around Singapore, even if you have issues early on, the potential for a safety car means that you can catch up with that. It's not the worst thing in the world. And Greg's going to lead David and George with their worn mediums, although George still ghosted.
George is going to probably lose. Yeah, he's going to lose a lot of
time.
Greg
goes just before the final corner, and he's built a decent gap to David Hoy.
He's built around 1 second into turn 1. Looks like everything is away cleanly. Bobolton is ahead of George, but that is expected. We have a touch with Bobolton and Rasmussen. That's front wing damage for Bobolton as the Has driver has hit him into the side.
David spins it, but actually got saved by Lassie coming down the inside and him making contact.
And Paulo's going to run
and
the
I've
outside
just seen a bit of front
Ero.
winger flying at the end, flying off in the background as well.
And
I'm not sure who that was from.
Paulo and Daryl are fighting for P7. Paulo went around the inside as Daryl is doing a dive bomb, and he's gonna make it stick.
That's a brave move, but he makes it work.
He makes it
Good
work.
driving by the McLaren.
P7 for him. We have two wide. It's Rob and Paulo. Camille into turn 8. That's also pretty brave. As the
Robbie
entry.
sliding back.
Oh, and Nathan on the outside. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. The hard tires are not good around here. Nathan's making those brand new mediums work really well.
He went run.
I would expect him to get Robbie pretty quickly because the hards are not good around here, and brand new mediums are very strong. They're basically the race tire of choice at Singapore. And obviously Nathan had the pace in qualifying.
Greg and David Hoy have already built a really big gap from P3. I think that's 3 seconds. Rasmussen is out of the session. We have a spin. We have a spin.
And Elliot spinned it. Elliot spinned it.
We have a virtual safety car with that thing. We have George, 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. How did he do that if he's ghosted?
I'm not sure.
If he's not in the session.
Perhaps somebody else slowed down and he sort of overtook them. So I'm running on board with Jordan now to see exactly what happened with Elliot. I would say he's probably run wide, going under the grandstand.
Probably.
Yeah. The car disappeared before Johnny got there.
Oh,
but I think he's probably run wide going onto the grandstand. He braked a bit too late, carried too much speed, and he's hit the outside wall, which we have seen before in F1. That's basically the wall that bites you if you get too aggressive. And a drive-through for David Hoy now for speeding on the safety car. That's not going to help his P2.
Probably. The safety car has ended, and I think Greg and David Hoy have built an even bigger gap to everyone else, as we do have a fight for P3. Rasmussen is out of the session, so that's gonna be a pretty easy position for Bolton. But Applinger will want to get closer to them to try and get Bolton for the podium place. So
the disconnect from Lassie has basically slid him backwards. He's losing places because the AI level is not set very high, obviously.
Rob and Nathan battling for P8. Let's see, Rob is defending the inside line, and Nathan has to stay behind him for a couple of corners. But because Rob is on hard tires, Nathan will probably get a better exit. So he maybe will have a chance at the end of this straight into turn 1. But we'll have to see if he gets a good exit out of the final corner, which he looks like
he's going to be praying that Bert Maylander has gone home. After David serves his drive-through, he's going to have a 6.5 second lead.
That's a lot. And we still don't know if he's doing a 1-stop or a 2-stop. So we have to...
On the mediums, he'll be doing a 1-stop. He'll be going onto the hards around about lap 15-ish. If he can make the mediums last that long and getting on the hards. You want to be on the hards for as little a time as possible. They're not super quick, but they're better than making 2 stops. Because it's so easy to get caught up in traffic around here. What he'll want to do is he'll want to wait until everybody else pits, and then hopefully come in and keep his position. But with the early safety car, a lot of the field is on fresher mediums, so he's not going to be able to do that. So he needs to build that gap to hopefully get out in front of as many people as possible.
I guess we have to wait and see what he decides to do. As you were saying that, Nathan has got P7 from Rob, run the outside, I think. I don't remember clearly. But
Nathan is absolutely flying.
He is, and it's actually a pretty clean race at the moment, as we are around 30% in the race at the moment. We're still not at the halfway point, so anything can still happen. we had 1 safety car and 2 VSCs. So that's way lower than I was expecting, I'll be honest with you.
21 laps to go yet! Oh, Georges isn't a ghost anymore, so he appears to have managed to join the session. And he's fit soft tyres. As Nathan sets a purple lap, he is absolutely steaming through the field. He's already built a 2-second gap to Robbie, and is right on the gearbox of Darrell. And he's going to get DRS now, down the boulevard, which might give him a dive into the into turn 5, into the left-hander.
He's not pushing it, as he's not using any of his ERS.
Yeah, he's still got like 60% of his battery left.
He still wants to be behind Darrell, so...
He's purple in Sector 1 again.
He is, but he will have a lot of the 30 air because of Darrell. If you don't know, guys, or viewers, whoever is watching, if you're behind another car, you're gonna have something that is called the 30 air. That's, how do I say that? Confiscated air from the car ahead of you, and the downforce levels are really important in Formula 1. As I'm saying that, Nathan is going round the outside of Darrell, and Darrell slows down pretty early to let him past. So, like I was saying, you lose a lot of time if you're behind one car in the corners, but if you're on the straight, you're gonna get slipstream, which is gonna improve your top speed. So you have to be mindful of that, and probably get rid of the car ahead of you as fast as possible to not lose a lot of time behind them.
I'm trying to invite people.
David Hoy and...
Lassie's disconnected, so I'm trying to invite him again.
Okay, then we have a double stat. Okay.
Okay, I got him.
Nice. David Hoy has...
Another purple out from Nathan.
David Hoy has served his drive-through penalty, as Bolton has went into the pit lane for hard tires. He's probably gonna go until the end of the race. Nathan has already caught up to Paulo and Appflinger in P3 and 2.
Lassie's back, but George has binned it.
Oh!
Under the seating again in Sector 3.
We have
Same place Elliot
car.
did.
We have a safety car again.
Yeah.
Let's go on board with
Told
Michael.
you! We haven't had as many safety cars as I thought. Still 21 laps left!
I'm on board with Michael, but the car just disappeared, so we're not...
But I think he's just done the same thing. He's gone too hot into here, which happens a lot.
Probably.
That sort of cushioned barrier sticks out quite far from where the wall is, where you sort of expect it to be when you get there. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, there's a barrier there. I'm surprised Greg hasn't fit though.
He has advantage in the safety car. If he wants to do a one-stop, he can go on hard until the end of the race. Or he can do a two-stop, and he is going into the pit lane. Let's see what tire he's gonna choose. David Hoy as well is on 10-lap old mediums. He's gonna probably want to go into the pit lane as well. We have Rasmussen going really deep. I don't know what turn that is, probably 15. So that's really unfortunate, but no damage, thankfully, for him.
Jamie, Paolo, and Nathan all carry on, as does Darrell.
And Greg is on hards. Greg is on hards. He's gonna go until the end of the race. Everyone in front of him will probably have to pit again, or maybe twice.
They will have to pit again. You're not getting mediums, sort of 25 laps like the front four would have to do. And even getting hards 25 laps here is very difficult. Greg's going to be right behind Robbie, and he's going to be all over him like a rash. If not off the safety car restart, especially at the end of the race, because Robbie's tyres are just going to be absolutely dead at that point if he tries to get them 25 laps.
And when everyone
Greg
else pits...
and David in the Alfa Romeo, they've got... sorry, David Power, since they're both called David. They've got sort of prime position here, along with Lassie with his brand new hards, and the other Alfa Romeo of David Hoy. See, the Alfa Romeos have made pit stops this week. They didn't in Suzuka, so they must have hired a new pit crew.
Probably. So, another safety car, another time to chat a little bit. Let's see who put the fastest lap at the moment. Nathan Powers on fresh mediums, 139.4. That's, I think, 7/10 faster than Greg, who has the second fastest lap time of 140.1.
Well, nobody else is in the 39s, so it's a good lap.
That's a really
Greg's
good
at
lap.
the 40.1. But the fact that he's only been on the medium tyres since the start of the race, so he was on fresh mediums when he had heavy fuel, and they were his qualifying tyres as well, so they were never fully fresh. That's actually really good. A 140.1 is good. As a racing lap, at least. Nathan obviously put the fresh mediums on at the first safety car, so he had that bit less fuel, and they were brand new at the time.
Let's hope that he can keep the pace. If he can, after his pit stop for probably medium tires, or maybe soft tires at the end of the race, he will have to be pretty fast if he wants to get P1 from Greg, as he will probably lead after everyone in front of him from P5 to P1 will pit. So he's gonna have to be pretty consistent and fast if he wants to try and get P1. So...
And Camel pits.
he does. He will probably go for hards. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
and he
hards
does.
and a new front wing. So he may have had some minor damage on.
Penalties. We had a few drive-throughs. I'm not.
Yeah, we've already had 2 drive-throughs, which is different. And Daryl, Robbie, and Camille all have a 3-second penalty for corner cutting. And on top of that, Robbie and Geordie have 5-second penalties for their contact they had behind the first safety car. Ordinarily, I would say that Robbie's will probably get removed, but Geordie's wouldn't, because he did come in a bit hot to sort of slowing traffic around a slow corner. However, since they'll both have to make a stop again, they will get served in the pits, and the rules of ERO is no served penalties can be removed by the stewards.
And that is gonna be a problem for Rob, as he was hit by a Alpha Tauri of Geordie.
He was hit by Geordie. So he was hit twice, actually. And one time Geordie got the penalty, and one time Rob got it.
So let's hope that Ero can remove at least that penalty, because that penalty was not his fault. Or
no,
at
but
least
he's gonna have to pit, so it'll get served in the pits. But the rules are any served penalties can't be removed. He's not going to get these set of hards to the end. Unless we have another 2 safety cars. He's got absolutely no chance. With another 2 safety cars, he might be able to do it, but he'll be in puncture territory for the last 2 or 3 laps and have no pace whatsoever. At which point, it's probably not worth it.
Probably. We have a few guys
you can
that
serve 5-second penalties under safety car. If you pit under safety car, you can serve 5-second penalties, as the safety car actually is coming in this lap. A good thing about the Singapore is Section 3 is so long, it tells you that early. Unlike
it
some
does.
places like Japan, where it just goes, safety car's coming in, you're now at 130 yard.
So, like Adam said, we have safety car coming into pit lane this lap. 5 guys still need to go into the pit lane to get new tires, but we are underway pretty early. They're not waiting for the safety car to end. We have Paolo going around the inside of Afflinger into turn 1, but he backed off. That will allow Nathan to get closer to them, as he is going around the outside of Paolo into turn 4. And he does the move around the outside. That is really impressive from Nathan. But they are still side by side into turn 6, I think that is. And Nathan Powers is in front, but goes
Nathan
a bit...
has the inside line, but he runs wide.
And Paolo tries to go around the inside, and they roll around the outside, but it doesn't work. Everyone is still alive at the moment, no damage to be seen. One guy into the pit lane, Camille, which is really interesting.
Camille pits again this time for softs. Is he just going to go and try and steal the fastest lap?
I'm not sure.
I don't really understand the reasoning behind going softs at this point of the race. Greg has managed to jump Rob, so he's leading the hard runners. The mediums are definitely going to have to pit.
Oh, we have a spin!
Greg, woo, Lassie.
It's Rasmussen.
He's lost it out of the Anderson Bridge.
Thankfully, it's not another safety car.
And he doesn't appear to have any damage. His front wing all seems intact at least. Yeah, his front wing's fine, so... all it's going to cost him is time, positions, and quite a lot of pride.
We have a battle for P1. Afflinger and Nathan Powers. Nathan is really fast on these mediums, and he's way more confident than Afflinger. They're not side by side yet, and Nathan backs out of the opportunity that he had on the inside.
Understands discretion is the better part of valor.
Yes.
Going for it on turn 1 is not that important when you have the run from 4 all the way down to 6. You don't have DRS right now because it's only a lap and a half since the safety car, but he does have the slipstream.
But he's still not close enough as he's not using any ERS, so he still wants to be behind him. And as I'm saying that, we have Rob and Bolton fighting right behind. Rob, I think, got in front of Bolton, I'm not sure. I was not paying any attention to those guys.
I think he's held his position because Greg was between them and managed to jump Rob at the safety car restart.
Probably. They're really close to one another. They have to be careful so they don't touch each other in the gearbox, so Bolton doesn't lose any damage. They are still really close as Rob gets a pretty poor exit, and Bolton will have another opportunity at the end of the straight, but he was way too far behind to try and make a move, maybe around the inside.
With the DRS he would have had a chance there, but without it, it's just difficult to really make a move at Singapore. The straights just aren't long enough for your exit to make enough of a difference for you to overtake.
And the DRS should be enabled this lap, probably. We have yellow flags. I'm not sure what is happening.
Michael's lost it in the same place as everybody else seems to do. Locked up going under the grandstand in Sector 3, but he appears to have managed to keep his front wing out of the wall. So he's well done
really
on that,
fortunate.
I suppose. He doesn't have any damage, he's just running in 10th now.
We have a fight with Daryl and Greg in the Ferrari. DRS is enabled this lap, so Greg will have DRS on Daryl, and Daryl will have no DRS.
Daryl is just too far back.
He is, and Greg goes around the outside, or inside it was previously, and he takes a pretty easy move to P4. Nathan went to P1 right behind our backs while we were talking about them.
Sneaky. And he's already managed to build a 2.5 gap. He knows he needs to get on with it and build as much of a gap to Greg as he can. So when he comes and pits for his new set of mediums, probably with 12 or 13 laps to go, he can hopefully cruise up to Greg on his what will then be quite old hards, and hopefully get him into the end at the end of the race.
And he is
It's really
already
into a
6
bit of a
seconds.
strategy fight here.
It will be. He is already 6 seconds in front of him. I think so.
Yeah.
No, he's 2.5.
Oh,
Says
2.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Can't do maths. Yeah, Greg, after overtaking Darrell, has managed to get right on the back of Paolo in the Williams as well.
I think
I
we're
know his
gonna
hards are a lot fresher than Paolo, Jamie, and Nathan's mediums, but hards really aren't good around here. He's managing to make them work very, very well.
very well.
Perhaps being under safety car has allowed them to go through that heating up phase safely, and he can now really push on them, and they won't degrade like much at all.
And he is fighting with Paulo and Epplinger for P2 respectively. All three drivers are battling into turn 6. Paulo will try and go around the inside of Epplinger, but he's way too far behind. And Greg is just trying to stay as close as he can to them and try not to make contact, as both guys in front of him are on 11 lap old mediums, so they're gonna be pretty slow at the moment, as their tire wear is probably gonna be pretty high, probably near around 40%, so they're gonna be slow.
They're getting close to their pit stop window, definitely, these front three.
We have
We've got a spin with an Alpine at turn 1, that's Camille. on his soft tires. He's not having a good day.
He's not, and I'm not happy because I mean the Alpine, and Alpine is not having a great day today, which is really unfortunate for my team, but it's what happens.
Could be worse. He could be Mercedes.
Could be worse.
Only one of us turned up and he didn't finish.
At least we're gonna have 2 points.
At least you have 2 drivers.
At least we have 2 drivers. Paolo goes into the pit lane.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Paolo pits. He was, as well as being under intense pressure from Greg. Sorry. As well as being under intense pressure from Greg, he was also using a lot more of his ERS. Greg's on nearly 90% of his ERS, and when at the time he pitted, Paolo was on about 30%. Jamie's down at 45. Nathan's also at 45, so he's been using some of his to try and build that gap. But Greg's just cruising around, basically. He's not using much in the way of his battery power. He's just really got those hard tyres working really well. I wonder how much of that is his ability to keep the tyres going and to sort of keep heating those hards. And how much of it is his setup, which is very nice on tyres. There's a 3-second time penalty for David Hoy as well.
He went too wide.
There's quite a lot of penalties building up right now.
At least there are not a lot of crashes and DNFs happening at the moment.
Yeah, we're actually getting to watch a race, not just a procession behind the safety car. Screw you, F4!
Let's see, with Greg Uplinger are fighting together. David Hoy and Rob are also battling for P4. Greg will want to get ahead of Uplinger as soon as possible to get as much of a gap to Nathan as he can, because after Nathan pits for probably new mediums, he's gonna have to be really conservative and push a little bit to try and remain P1, because we saw Nathan's speed in qualifying, so he can definitely
Jamie pits releases Greg to go after Nathan.
Oh, that's really interesting. So he gets clean air with no trouble at all. He has free air, and he can catch up to Nathan.
And neither of these two have penalties, so this is going to come down to a straight fight on track.
It is.
As Nathan laps Camille.
David Hoy and Rob just behind him are also having a pretty intense battle for P3. David Hoy is using all of his ERS. They nearly touch. He goes around the inside, but Rob just closes the door.
That was brave.
It was.
Nearly cost him his front wing. It was brave.
That was really close. He is missing a bunch of apexes, which is not what you want to see from a driver. You want to see consistency and speed. We have a spin with Jordi in the AlphaTauri.
Yeah, Jordi's lost it at the end of the second DRS zone. He's just gone too deep. He's just gone far too deep.
And he's just gonna be lapped by the leaders, as he is, I think, retiring, as he went really deep.
And then reversed into the wall.
And probably has rear wing damage.
Possibly. I mean, they talked a lot about, oh, now he has front wing damage. He's lost it under the stadium section. Yeah, they talked a lot about rear wing damage when the game was coming out, about, oh, look at this new damage model. I find it's quite difficult to get damage on the rear wing, the side pod, and the floor. Can, obviously, but it's not the easiest thing as he comes flying out of the... Oh, and he's missed the pit lane.
Nathan
he now has to do a whole lap
lane
with no front wing. He just went in far too hard trying to get into the pits. Like I say, it's a tight pit lane at the best of times. Oh yeah, Nathan pits on that fresh set of mediums we were talking about. So he now has 11 laps to chase down Greg, which is
probably gonna be around 30 seconds.
And it updates it.
30
He's
seconds.
got 28 seconds to gain.
And David Hoy going around the inside, a really big dive bomb. I'm really sorry for shouting, but that was a really big dive bomb.
Oh, Robbie manages to hold the position though, manages to get a better exit.
And around the outside as well. This battle will allow Rasmussen, who had connection issues, to catch up to them.
Yeah, Lassie's going to catch up onto the back of this and make it a three-way fight for second.
He's having a pretty okay race at the moment. If it wasn't for the connection issues, he probably would have been up there.
I think he'd definitely be in front of David and Robbie, because obviously he lost time when he DC'd. I'm not sure he'd have lived with Greg, but it could have been like a roadblock for Greg to stop Nathan catching up. It's whether Nathan can gain this 28 seconds in 11 laps. I mean, that's quite the delta. It sort of depends how well Greg does keeping hold of his tyres. And with such a gap like that, if there is another safety car, it gives him a chance to come in and pit and get out on a fresh set of mediums, which are then going to be a superior tyre to what Nathan's on, and still be in front of him on the road. He's not then going to have to pass him, as he leads by now 11.5 seconds.
We still have 10 laps remaining, so anything can happen. But as I'm... Oh, there's a touch with David Hoy and Rob into turn 3. I think
Camel retires.
Let's see what happened to him.
Has he binned it? Has he binned it? Oh, he's binned it.
He understeered into turn 5. I think that is... I'm not sure. That's really unfortunate.
He's forgotten where his slow pedal is.
Nathan and that
he's lost a rear wheel. As Nathan is right on the back of Jamie now. On those fresh tires. He needs to clear Jamie as soon as possible. Like now actually would be a good time, and he does it.
And there's a touch.
Down the boulevard. He cut across a little bit aggressively there. But if there's no damage, it's all good, it's all fair.
And
I don't think Jamie has damage, so I think we'll be okay.
That's another free position for Nathan Powers. He probably is gaining around 2 seconds each lap, so there is probably not gonna be enough time to catch up to Greg. But as I've said, anything can happen.
Yeah, depending on if Greg's tires really fall off a cliff and Nathan manages to keep this pace up. I mean, he has just lost time behind Jamie because he's obviously flying. He's already built a gap of over a second in sort of half a sector. The main issue is going to be he's got to pass David and Lassie. Robbie will probably pit. I can't see him getting sort of 25 laps out of his hards.
He has damage.
But he's going to have to get past David and Lassie. Oh, and yeah, he's pit.
He binned it into the wall and he had damage, so he needed to pit. And he is going for nothing.
He takes his 5-second penalty.
He's going for nothing. He's going for
new front wing and a set of mediums. So he's going to be quick on those, but it depends how far it drops him down the field.
Of course. We have...
Greg has built his lead now to 16 seconds.
And
he's lapping 2 seconds a lap faster than Lassie and David, by the looks.
And they are going to battle for P2, so that's probably going to be at the advantage of Nathan as well. So he's gonna be even quicker to these guys, and
yeah, he has 7 seconds to catch up to this battle. He needs these guys, not necessarily slow each other down, but he needs these guys to hold each other up enough to the point that where he catches them, it's beneficial to him, because he needs to clear them quickly if he hopes to catch up to Greg. He's still 24 seconds behind with 9 laps to go. It's a real chase, but as Greg weaves his way through sector 3.
We have a soft runner in Michael. Pretty interesting. The softs probably won't go until the end, so that's probably not a good strategy call, but he may be going for the fastest lap as he cuts the corner way too much.
And of course, if you run out of track limits on the last left double apex of the lap, it invalidates both the lap you were on and the next one.
It does.
So he's not getting a fastest lap this lap.
And he gets a penalty for 3 seconds exceeding track limits. Nathan Powers, a new fastest lap, 137.6. We're gonna see how consistent Greg is on his hard tires. So he's doing a 140.5 around every lap, I would say. So he's losing around 3 seconds to Nathan every lap. So that's gonna be...
Could be tight at the end, yeah. That gives us a catching time of 7 laps on 1 sector. which would put us at the end of the boulevard on the final lap when Nathan catches Greg.
If he does catch Greg, he still has David Hoy just
if he can get past David and Lassie. I mean, David and Lassie seem to have split up now. Like, Lassie's managed to build a gap of about 3 seconds. I imagine David made a mistake to build a 3-second gap that fast, which might give Nathan a bit of an easier time, because he only has to overtake one car, and then he's going to get another lap or so, and then another car, instead of having to try and pass both at the same time. But he can't get past David in the second DRS zone, so he's going to be behind him for the entire third sector, unless he makes an audacious move somewhere.
He is backing out a lot to not get any contact, but he is...
There's no way he was going to go for it there.
No way.
I think he might be trying to scare David off the road as much as anything else.
I think that David has damage because he's really, really slow. But I'm not sure. And
his front wing's intact. I mean, he could have floor damage or side pod damage. It's very difficult to tell from the spectator cameras, but his front wing's intact.
And that was a pretty
as
easy
Nathan
overtake.
gets past on the pit straight.
He probably
so now he's
lost...
got another 3.5 seconds to catch up to Lassie, and he's still 20 seconds behind Greg though.
He probably
with
lost
7
around 2
laps to go.
seconds with that.
Well, he needs to keep his delta at 3 seconds, but the mediums are going to drop off much faster than the hards. There's another 3-second time penalty for Bolton. Neither him nor Greg have penalties though, so it is possible that Greg gets a penalty, and he basically beats him.
Let's see if he is close.
One.
He only has 1. No, 2! He has 2 warnings, so there is a chance to get a penalty of 3 seconds. So there is a few laps remaining, 7 laps remaining, so anything can happen. As Bolton and Rob, finally we have a battle of some sort. They're fighting for P8. That is gonna be 6 points, I think. No, 4 points. For P8. And
okay, and
Bolton...
Nathan only has 1 warning. Sorry, I just went the whole way
God.
through the race director again.
Oh,
Nathan only has 1 warning, so we can push a bit harder.
Rob nearly did a switchback in the previous Singapore Sling corner. Nearly. But he did have bad traction, and he's trying to go here in this corner as Bolton brakes really early. Rob has the advantage of fresh medium tires, 5 laps newer, and he's... Oh, will he go around the outside? No, he won't. And Greg has a 3-second penalty.
Greg has the penalty. Race is officially back on for Nathan. He now only needs to gain 15.5 seconds in 6 laps.
And Nathan
Sounds
is
easy
now
when you say it
overtaking
like that.
Rasmussen. Oh, Rasmussen
So
is
he's
going around
now-
the inside. They touch!
Oh!
Oh, that was a big dive bomb from Rasmussen, which has not
That
worked.
was- Yeah. And David gets him.
But he does a switchback, and they're still side by side. And let's see.
Jesus.
And David Hoy
Take
is
the
in front
points,
of him.
guys. Take the points.
That was really close. I don't think that Rasmussen will do anything in these corners. He will probably have to wait until the next straight. Only if David Hoy does a mistake or crashes, he will get that position back. As he does go pretty wide. Rasmussen has DRS, but as Adam said at the beginning of the stream, the straights are way too short to try and make a move. The only place where you can probably make a move is turn 1 and after the second long straight. I mean the first long straight. So they need to be patient if they want to overtake. Nathan 17 seconds behind Greg. So he still has 5 laps remaining, but his tires are gonna be worn out a lot.
Yeah, I think the tires are starting to sort of burn off a little bit now. Greg's still lapping in the 140s. Nathan's last lap was a 139, which obviously isn't going to be enough. I mean, qualifying 3rd on the mediums was a masterstroke by Greg, which we completely missed. I was like, nobody's going to qualify on the medium. Oh wait, never mind.
And we have been surprised. Rasmussen and David Hoy are going side by side, and Rasmussen goes. Oh, David Hoy tries to go around the outside, and they were pretty close with one another as David Hoy broke really late, trying to make a move and overtake P3 back from Rasmussen, but he did hit the wall a little bit at the moment. That's probably gonna be slight damage as he is going really slowly in these corners.
Yeah, these guys have been fighting so much, they've lost so much time that Jamie's now caught them up. After being, like, fighting with them earlier and then making an extra stop, he's now caught them up.
He will probably have a pretty easy move after he catches up a bit to David Hoy, but
he has 7-lap newer, softer tyres, so...
I wonder how much the hard runners are, how much wear they have on their tires.
None of them have a warning light yet, so less than 60%.
Probably. They will go until
apart
the
from
end.
that, no idea. Because unfortunately I can't go on board and stare at the wheel.
And Applinger has overtaken David for P4. With those fresh mediums, he will want to catch to Rasmussen to get the final podium place. But he does have a penalty of 3 seconds, so he wants to extend the gap. Rob gets another.
He's going to need to catch him in the next couple of laps so we can sort of try and build that 3 seconds. Paolo's catching David as well now.
And Nathan is catching Greg as well. But I don't think he will have enough
Not
time.
fast enough.
Yeah. At the moment,
the gap's gone down about a second in the last lap, so I mean, Greg, at this current rate, unless he bins it, even with his penalty, Greg's still going to win by sort of 6 or 7 seconds.
I mean, there is a thing called the Commentators curse, so Greg will probably spin right now.
Oh, he drives for Ferrari, he doesn't listen to commentators.
The Ferrari is pretty usual to Spinalla, so he has to be really careful to survive. He just has to be careful on these last 3 laps, and he will take the win.
He was a little wide on the last corner. Was that another warning, possibly?
Maybe he can get another penalty, Greg. Which is gonna be really interesting. But there is still, I don't think there is still gonna be enough time for Nathan to catch 9 seconds. But he will.
He's still on 3 warnings.
Okay then. Nathan will have DRS on a back marker, so he will be a bit faster. And Paulo and Hoy are having a bit of a battle as well, as Paulo has overtaken David for P5. So that's really good for Paulo.
David's starting to struggle on those hards.
He
doesn't have a tyre warning light, but I mean, they could be sort of overheating. His tyre pressures could be a bit high. They could be overheating.
I actually don't think so. I saw him previously hit the wall a little bit, so maybe he has slight damage, which on Singapore we all know is awful.
Yeah, it's not good. But he doesn't. He doesn't have any visual damage. It's that annoying damage that we can't go. Hey, look, he's got damage. Like,
Rasmussen and Applinger having a pretty intense battle for P3, really close in turn 10.
But there you go, penalty for Nathan, so
oh,
yeah, I think that's over now.
That's really unfortunate. Oh, Rasmussen and Applinger touch a little bit. I'm sorry, you were saying?
I was just going to say David Powers Bolton, he stole the fastest lap for Alfa Romeo.
He did.
With a 37.0 on buffs. But he does have 14 seconds of penalties. So, but he's the final driver still on the lead lap.
Oh, we have a spin.
There's a fair distance back to Greg.
From David
that's David. Well, if he didn't have damage before, he probably does now.
Probably.
No, his front wing's still fine.
But he is really slow in these corners, if I say so myself. He is going into the pit lane, yeah. So he has
he's
damage,
probably
but
burnt the tyres out, I would think. If he's spun it, he'll have burnt the rears out.
maybe.
So
Let's
he's going to have to
see.
box for
Let's
softs.
see right now.
Just go for a flyer at the end.
Looks like they are changing his front wing, so he has damage. It's not visible.
Sneaky.
Only.
That looks fine!
Rasmussen and Applinger are still at it for the final podium position. I don't think there is any point for Applinger to pass Rasmussen because he has a penalty of 3 seconds, I think. So even if he
I think
overtakes him,
his best chance is probably to deploy some of the potassium he's got sat around and just bin him into a wall.
maybe. But he will have an even bigger penalty. Oh my god! And he did that! He did that!
He's put himself out, and Lassie's okay. He was listening.
He did that! Oh my
Lassie
god!
probably had to brake earlier because of the old tyre. See, that's the commentator's curse. That's commentators being right.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, me either. But he's pinned himself out, so you know it's fine.
If that's not gonna be in the clips, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do.
The timing was so good. My timing's never been that good.
That was unbelievable.
Jeez.
Oh my god.
Paolo's just kind of cruising now in third, and the gap between Paolo and Nathan is absolutely ridiculous.
I think that Rasmussen
Nathan's
may
managed
have
to get back to 8
damage.
seconds behind Greg, but like with just one full lap to go, Greg could take it easy, really. He can take another couple of seconds out of his lap and just chill it out. Make sure he doesn't make a mistake.
I think I'm seeing some rear wing damage on Rasmussen's car, but I'm not sure, to be honest. That's probably because he was hit by Afflinger.
Yeah.
Really unfortunate
fault.
scenes. Really
Yeah, there does look to be some little chunks out of it. But I don't know if that's just like the model of it,
I don't know.
because they seem symmetrical.
Let's
I don't know. Does anybody actually know what the Haas car looks like?
I mean, I'm watching Paulo's car, and he doesn't have any bits at the middle of the wing. So he probably has damage. He is pretty conservative on the throttle, so probably is
How low?
damage.
What do you mean bits on the middle of the wing?
I mean at the
The rear wing?
yeah, at the rear wing, I can see some spaces that are broken. But the camera is not close enough to see if it is broken, like Lando Norris's car, or if it's okay.
I think it's just like the modelling of the Williams wing, because I mean it all looks fine, and they're not allowed like a central support strut unless it's coming from a very specific point of the car, and I don't think Williams use one.
Probably. I'm not sure.
As far as I understand.
Why don't we go on board with Greg? Because there are no
let's watch
battles.
Greg for his victorious Sector 3 and watch him bin it. Because now we've said that. Ooh, he's still kind of aggressive in the corner. I would be chilling it right now.
I think if he got another penalty and Nathan had no penalty, I think Nathan would have won. But he is running out the final corners to win
Less than 6.
today's Singapore Grand Prix, which was really interesting.
Greg with a strategic masterclass.
6.1.
Qualify on mediums. Make 1 star. Yeah, oh god. Imagine if Greg got a second penalty and Nathan didn't get any. Imagine.
Oh my god! He would have been so frustrated.
Oh my.
And
Well, and I would like to say congratulations that we didn't reach safety car cap.
we only had 2 safety cars, which was
Which is like nothing, right?
Interesting.
Both tiers yesterday, both PlayStation tiers yesterday, reached safety car caps. 4 full safety cars and 2 VSCs. And we didn't, so yay for PC.
Yay, we are clean.
They haven't seen PC1 tomorrow yet.
Except for the Appflinger incident. We are clean.
I think
we are clean.
Yeah, I think that might just have been a case of he got a bit too like I have to make this move.
Too aggressive.
And obviously on his much older tyres, Lassie had to brake earlier, and he was a lot closer than he thought. I think.
Probably.
Went, screw it, go.
There is a spin for Bolton.
Yeah.
It's Bolton, but he cannot lose any more positions because he will stay.
David gets Robbie on penalties. Robbie had a lot of penalties. Bolton has 14 seconds, so he's not going to catch anything. But he has no front wing either, so that's a sad limp home.
This is a pretty good day for Ferrari. They only had one guy racing, and he won. And
he didn't spin.
Spinalla. And Bolton is going to the finish line, and this is gonna be our Singapore Grand Prix over. Pretty interesting race. Not too many battles, but it was pretty okay. What did you think of it, Adam?
I thought it sort of highlighted everything that was brilliant about Singapore, apart from it didn't rain. Where we had safety cars, we had sort of strategy differences, we had some battles, we had some chaos.
A lot of chaos.
But it could have been significantly worse. But you know, it's fine.
It was fine.
It was cleaner than the two races they had last night. So I'll take it as a win.
Who would you pick as your driver of the day? I would probably pick at the moment Greg, but I have to watch the race again to see everyone else.
I think it has to be Greg. Like the strategy call he made, and then the gap he was able to build over the other hard runners. I think it kind of has to be. He's just pulled a masterclass.
He did, and he pulled off a good qualifying to qualify on mediums and to get P1 with a really good strategy. But yeah, I hope that everyone else who was watching the race has enjoyed it as much as we did. I hope you did, Adam. I did, actually.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, do you want to say anything else before we end up the stream?
Well, I mean, it was pretty clean. Like as far apart from the obvious. It was pretty clean. I hope PC1 is similar. Tomorrow. Although, I mean, I wouldn't mind if a lot of people sort of bin it on their own so I can get a good position.
Keep an eye on me.
I don't want to get taken out.
I'm gonna win. I can feel it.
Am I gonna win? Alright, Mario, calm down.
I'm really good at street circuits, so I have a pretty high chance. So
Dakoshori is like from the streets.
If anyone wants to join the league, there is a link in the description for our Discord. You can join there. You'll be informed for every race. We have only the PS league and PC league, so there might be some spots left, so you can join. And yeah. You can also follow the website or the Twitter or our Facebook as well, or you can give some donations if you want to. So, this was the Singapore Grand Prix in PC2, round 4. I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as we did, and I guess we'll see you next time, next Saturday for, I think it's Baku. So, yeah.
It is. The calendar said Portimao, however, it's not out before Monday. It might be out on Monday, but it's not out before Monday, so we ain't going. We've all booked flights for Azerbaijan.
So, everyone, have a nice rest of the day, and stay safe out there. See you next time.